favorite topic, pain. Yes. My daughter fell off her bike the other day, and you would have thought she lost a limb the way she came screaming through the kitchen, sort of like that. But screaming through the kitchen with a face full of tears, and I got to look at her knee, and it's just this like tiny little scratch, maybe a drop of blood. So we do the mom thing, we put a Band-Aid on it, a little ice, send her on her way. And throughout the whole rest of the day, this little thing looks at me with the saddest look in her face and says, "Mommy, do you remember when I fell off my bike?" Yeah, sure do, about 10 minutes ago. And throughout the whole rest of the week, she kept staring at her little knee and poking at it and scraping whatever scab had a chance to form off of it. So you'd see blood and scream all over again. And I finally said to her, "Honey, look, your boo-boo can't stop hurting if you don't leave it alone." And then I got thinking, how true is that, not just for physical pain, but emotional pain as well? Whether that's heartbreak or failure or loss or rejection, or that time that you wrote a 3-page love letter to Jonathan Taylor Thomas and he never bothered to respond. I'm still bitter. We want to get over pain, but we keep looking at it, staring at it, and talking about it. We'll listen to songs that'll make us cry, and I get it, like, scabs are kind of cool in a gross way. And look, no one teaches you what to do with pain. Maybe your parents, but my family was a little bit of the stonewalling type. We didn't really acknowledge what was going on. We could be in the middle of a flood with water up to our knees, standing around the kitchen table, and we'd all be like, "It's kind of damp in here. Little wet, huh? Weird." There's no Band-Aid for getting your feelings hurt. There's no magic potion that's going to get you over grief. And trust me, I've checked. There's no programs that offer free one-way flights for every time you get rejected. It doesn't exist. So it's up to you to figure out what to do with it. My grandma used to say that 2 things in life are certain: death and taxes. And if she were here today, she would include the universal experience of pain because I would tell her to. And she supported any idea I had ever, including that time that she let me eat an entire bag of chocolate chips, which, if you're wondering, it will definitely make you throw up. My grandma was amazing. You guys would have loved her. She was a spitfire. She fueled my deep, deep love for Elvis Presley. She let me know how every episode of Murder, She Wrote was going to end, just so I didn't have to sit in suspense. But she was my rock. She was that steadiness when my world felt like it was falling apart many times in my childhood. In October of 2009, it was my daughter's second Halloween, and we got her dressed up as the cutest little draft you ever did see. And of course, I took her straight to my grandmother's. I called on the way, and she didn't answer, so I assumed she was in the bathroom, and I got there, and the door was locked, which was weird, because she knew I was coming. And I put my key in the keyhole, and my heart sank into my stomach. And I opened the door to find my grandmother face down on the floor. Still conscious, but very disoriented. We spent the rest of that Halloween in the hospital. The next 3 weeks were very confusing, very busy. I went to grad school, I came home, I went straight to the hospital. And the reviews were mixed. Some days they would say, "She's going to be okay, we'll get her in rehab, it'll be fine." And then one day I walked in and the doctor just looked at me and said, "Sorry, there's nothing more we can do." My grandmother crossed over on Thanksgiving of that year. And I use every Thanksgiving to be so grateful that I had someone like her in my life. But I'd be lying if I said my earth wasn't shattered after she crossed over. But the world doesn't give a fuck if your world is shattered, right? Your boss still expects you to show up to work the next day, even if that guy you confessed your love for just doesn't feel the same way. Your bills will still demand to be paid, even if you sunk every penny into a business that tanked. And your 6th grade teachers will still expect you to turn in your homework even when JTT doesn't write back. But pain isn't without purpose. In the 1980s, they did this really cool experiment called the biodome. Has anybody heard of the biodome? Yeah? Okay. I had to Google it because I'm born in 87. But in the 80s, they had this cool thing called the biodome. And what they did is they created this giant dome in the middle of the desert. And they created perfect living conditions, perfect air, perfect water, perfect temperature and sunlight, and everything was thriving, and people would come to stay, and it was amazing. and everything was working perfectly, except for the trees. The trees would get to a certain height and they would just fall over. And the researchers would stand around like, WTF? What's this about? And what they realized is they had forgotten to include wind. Wind is necessary for trees to grow roots. The more wind, the better the internal support system that allows the tree to grow to its maximum capacity. Bigger, taller, stronger. Our pain is our wind. Our pain is what makes us grow. It makes us grow those roots so that we're at our best. And it doesn't seem like it when you're going through that. And even people who have rather perfect conditions, they create their own wind, right? Through addiction, through unhealthy relationships. They'll find it because we don't grow when we're comfortable. We don't move when we're comfortable. We need something to come shake us up or take it for us, right? Put you in a position where you can't move. So how do we stop kicking the scab? How do we know this is purposeful, how do we stop coming back to it over and over and over again? Because our brains want to do that. The thing you have to understand is that your brain is a machine. That's it. And its job is to keep you safe, which works well with physical pain, because I know if I touch that stove, it's hot as fuck and I'm burnt and I'm done. I'm not doing that again. And the problem with that is that emotional pain is perceptual, right? But your brain doesn't know that, so it says, oh, I fell in love and it got hurt, I'm not doing that again. We need to know there's options. This is how important possibility is. At one point in time, it was considered impossible to run a 4-minute mile. Impossible, nobody had done it. And then this guy named Roger Bannister comes along and he's like, I got this. And Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile. It was unheard of. Over 20,000 people since that day have ran a 4-minute mile, including high schoolers. We just need to know it's possible sometimes. The second part of that is our thoughts directly create our emotions. So you have to be really aware of what you're thinking about. It's so important. And you can do this through the questions you ask yourself. If you ask powerless questions, your brain will be forced to respond with powerless answers. After my grandmother died, other than why me and what did I do to deserve this, and the universe is clearly out to get me, I had the question, what if I would have came sooner? So my brain responded, well, she'd still be here. And all of a sudden, I'm responsible for my grandmother's passing. I'm not God, right? It's not my fault. So if you ask powerless questions, you'll be forced to have a powerless answer. So now I ask questions like, how can I make my grandmother proud? How can I honor her through the work that I do? How can I mention her and bring her up so other people know how great she was? How am I going to let this event fuel me? How am I going to raise my standards so I don't settle for less ever again? Questions that are important. And the last thing that you really, really need is stubborn faith. You need to believe that even in chaos, there's divine order. I promise you that. You have a soul that is an extension of source energy, and it's capable of overcoming and healing anything. But if you can't believe in the universe, believe in yourself. Believe in your power to get through it. And if you can't believe in that, believe in your support system. Because you've got plenty of people around you who love you, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. If you just say, I need a little help here, they'll show up. And we're here, everyone. Look, Cinderella would have been boring if she would have had a perfect life and then married the prince. We would all have been like, what a bitch. She's got it so easy. But we love Cinderella. I have an obsession with Cinderella, but that's besides the point. But we love Cinderella because she overcame all this stuff and she kept in her head and in her heart what she wanted and what she envisioned the world to be like. You are your own Cinderella story. I know many of you, and I know the pain that you've carried in your hearts and the burdens that you've carried on your backs. And you've chosen to see light in the darkness, and you've chosen faith when it was really, really hard to see. So you're already a success story. Keep building on that. And I'm going to leave you with this. Your power has and never will lie in what does or doesn't happen to you. It lies in what you do with it. So choose wisely. Thank you.